Hi there, YouTube. Hang on a second while we grab our friends over on Twitch. The Twitch Leering Center. Here we go. All right, good. Hi everybody, welcome to the Stratosphere Lounge. I'm Bill Whittle. It is a little dark here in the lounge tonight, just a little offset. Just got off of an hour-long interview with my friend Frank Gaffney, who's an amazing guy, real American patriot, and does all that deep, dirty work that needs to be done. Here we are. And let me see here. Let's bring my windows up. I turned off the monetization already. See, I'm ahead of the game here. So it's good to see everybody. Hello from Spokane, Washington, the latest state to add an income tax. Sorry to hear that, Keith. Very sorry to hear that. The trend should be going in the other direction. Thanks everybody for being here, and thanks for the kind words. Let's see. It's only a little bit dark in here. Let me see if I can do something about that real quick. Yeah, that's close enough. Here we are. It's politics night in the lounge, and I will just tease this, and I'm not going to show anything. I'll just tease. There is a rumor that Natasha might show up tonight. We don't know yet. But I'll just tease this. One of the things we were talking about on the Stratosphere Studio was the whole business about slang and especially profanity, and I didn't know if it could be done or not. And then I turned off the stream, and I just stumbled upon a YouTube channel that does really, really good AI, and I'll play some of that on Monday. But they actually, what I saw there actually convinced me that it could actually be done. And it's really, really well written stuff. It's about the only really well written stuff that I've seen, aside from the thing I mentioned before, which I just love, which is the archive in between about it's just fabulous stuff. I think this democratization of talent is phenomenal. I haven't watched TV I haven't watched network TV honestly in 15, 20 years, and so all good things. So we'll see where that goes. Don't really have a whole lot to start off the conversation with, so maybe we'll just jump into the questions as we get. Quibo says, I just heard Sora 2 has an update. Okay, I'm still waiting for Sea Dance 2, which is supposed to have been released in middle of February, but has been held, apparently because of lawsuits. I think that business of Tom Cruise fighting Brad Pitt on the roof really got the studios completely freaked. So looking forward to that, just another tool to have. Okay, so let's, why don't we just jump into the questions, because I'm sure there's a lot to talk about. The world has not exactly been a quiet place, so let's bring up our little window here. My right angle that we shot on Tuesday, so 2 days ago, I thought was really interesting. And I realize there's likely to be some questions along those lines, so let's see if we get that or not. And if not, I'll just chat about it a little bit. And you move over there. Everybody happy? Everybody's happy? Seems to be happy. Everybody seems to be happy. Let's just see one thing real quick, make sure I didn't miss any messages. I don't believe I did. Nope. Okay. So, yeah, Lady Hawk, I could not resist myself on Steve Green's writing. I honest to God don't know where it came from. I really don't, and I haven't checked the comments. But for those of you who haven't seen it, Steve Green episode was called Schrodinger's Ayatollah, because nobody really sure who it is, and even if it is the son of the guy who was just liberated from this earth, everybody's looking for him. But the thing really was, the question was, is he dead or alive? And somehow some fragment from a long time ago just popped into my head, and that fragment was, "Is he in heaven? Is he in hell?" And then I thought, what is that from? It was YouTube commercials are off, and so there was this film called The Scarlet Pimpernel. I want to say coming back in the 40s. I want to say, and the story of the Scarlet Pimpernel is about a guy. He's kind of the James Bond of the time, and he rescues aristocrats from France during the French Revolution when they're all having their head chopped off. So he hides as a member of the. Does he hide as a member of the proletariat? In any event, the line in that movie is, "They seek him here, they seek him there. Those Frenchies seek him everywhere. Is he in heaven? Is he in hell? That damned elusive Pimpernel." Yes, it was Leslie Howard. And I don't know. I really was thinking like, it's a little unprofessional. And then I said, yeah, I don't care. So the only text for the Schrodinger's Ayatollah right angle is, "They seek him here, they seek him there. Those Yankees seek him everywhere. Is he in heaven? Is he in hell? That damned elusive Pimpernel." I just thought it was fun. Anyway, so it was fun. Yeah, let's see what we got for the questions here. We got Thursday night, yes. 312, yes. Everything seems to check out. Eric Blake has curated this for us. Thank you very much, Eric. And especially thank you. Third, use bigger typesetting, 14 or bigger, so Bill won't have to put on those flashy spectacles. Even now, I needs them. I needs my precious. These glasses have to go. I like the frames, but I've had them for years, and I've just come. Yeah, thanks, Eric. And I'm just getting older, and the eyes are getting weaker, and I'm squinting more. So I know that when you keep up in the glasses, you just kind of making your eyes worse. But if I can't read the monitor, I can't get my work done. So that's just life. I hate young people with their damned elusive long telomeres, caps on them, and to hell with you. There we go. Sage Grouch, how many fingers am I holding up? I can't see. I don't know. I actually do like them. Come to think of it, makes me look smart. Thank you, Sky Fairbanks. I appreciate it. It's nice to change public's opinion when you get a chance. So let me see what we got here. We'll just have a look. Eric Blake, who's got some second time in counting. All right. Well, not going to have to deal with that. Hang on a second. Did I see a flash? No, I did not. Okay. So we got an Eric Blake. Got a Marusha Dark. Second time asking. We got a Guy Balo. We got a Road Runner. We got a Capital G Geek. We got a Quibo Artist. And wow. We got Braden Higby. I think that's it. And it looks like Quibo's is a. It looks like it's a Monday night question. So it actually looks like it's going to be pretty quick. So is Bill a queer? No, he's not. Even though he is on television, he's not a queer because he's quite a good shot. And that militates him being a queer. Plus, he's married to a beautiful woman. We could ask Bunny. Bunny, you're a queer, aren't you? Oh, yes. Yes, I'm a frightful queer. I just love those sketches so much. If you don't know what I'm talking about, it's a running joke here on the Stratosphere Lounge. It is my favorite comedy team of all time, Harry Enfield and Paul Whitehouse. Not many people have heard of them, Harry and Paul. But, yeah, they've got a series of ongoing sketches where these two old British gentlemen are sitting in a country club lounge discussing whether or not somebody is a queer. And I just love it. So, anyway. So let's see what we got. We'll go right to the Eric Blake of it all, why don't we? Eric Ticky says, is Natasha going to make a guest appearance tonight? I don't know. There was some question about it, but it wasn't a promise. So I think the fun thing to do will be to just wait and see. If not, I'll drag her in here on next Thursday. To be perfectly honest and not being flip about it, it's been really, really hard for her, with her daughter, and she just misses her more than anything. So, um, it's yeah, it's hard. It's hard to be separated. They're very, very close, and it's harder when Sochi is essentially depopulated. Uh, no one's vacationing there. All the young men have run away, and all of that stuff. Um, so there's that. Okay, moving on. Tonight, or starting anyway. Eric Blake, tonight, the case of the Persian powerhouse. It is such a corny thing to do with that case tonight, the case of, but I just love it so much. I just love it so much. And anyway, reminds me of the Wild Wild West. I don't remember that. It used to be on our roll in for Monday night show, but the Wild Wild West started off. Every single episode was called "The Night of," 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 "The Night of." That was kind of cool. Okay, so the case of the Persian power. So, Bill, while others can argue about the foreign policy pros and cons of the Iran conflict, might I point to the glorious political benefit we've gained that so many of the libertarian or American first persuasions seem to miss? The widespread gratitude towards Trump and the MAGA coalition who voted him in from the massive looking voter demographic of Persian Americans. Interesting. I don't know how many Persian Americans there are in this, but I'll get to that. I mean, I just don't know what that number is. Since the last couple of weeks, we've seen a massive celebrations from D.C. all the way to your home turf of L.A., out on the streets, flying both America and Shah-era Iranian flags together. Especially awesome, the numbers of young and incredibly attractive Iranian-American women throughout social media coming out en masse as the most vehement supporters of Trump and MAGA at large. Yes, I've seen some of those, and they are very effective. Many of them dancing to YMCA, by the way. I'd say it's time not to look the gift horse in the mouth, but rather to strike while the iron's hotter than the Ayatollah's current residence. Let's eagerly accept this new demographic with open arms and play it up for all it's worth. Our man Scott Pressler has been talking about get out the vote efforts with them. Point of fact, this may end up turning the midterms heavily in our favor. What's your read? I actually kind of agree. First thing was when I heard that Trump's Iranian operation, assuming it can be kept to 4 to 6 weeks, had 86% approval among Republicans, and we needed something. We needed Trump to do something big, because to be perfectly honest, there's been a lot of disappointments in the last 6, 7, 8 months, and this is it. It's been 2, 3 weeks now. I think we're in our 3rd week of a shooting war, and with 1 or 2 exceptions, being shot down by. I said this before, and I'll say it again. I want to know more about that Kuwaiti pilot who shot down those 3 F-15s, because he did it with heat seekers, which means he was just in trail, in formation. And I don't see how you do that by accident. I think the guy was an Islamicist who snuck through. Some people are probably deeper into this than I am, but I really would like to know what's going on there. So there's that. There was a refueling tanker crashed. I didn't hear about that. Okay, so back to the sort of to the point here. KC-135 went down over Iraq. I didn't hear. Was it shot down, or was it mechanical error? Did the crew get out? Oh, nope, they're okay. Not so far. They just say it crashed. Oh, God darn, that's not good. No, they don't have ejection seats, but they can get out. They do wear parachutes. A collision, a refueling collision, says Air Techie. Hi there, Damien. I wonder if it was coalition forces or whether. I can't remember the last time I've heard about an air-to-air collision on a tanker. Okay. All right. No, we'll get more details about that. I'm not due to either friendly or hostile fire. Okay. Well, I'll read up on that a little later. Okay, we'll see. So anyway, back to the point. Yeah. not only has it fired up the Persian base, like religiously fired them up, it's fired up the MAGA base, who, obviously the whole, after Charlie Kirk's death, the big split was, the big issue was between some people, I'm not going to prejudice or anything, right wingers who said, that we're in the clutches of the Israeli government. We're essentially a puppet regime for Netanyahu, and we don't want Americans to fight Israel's war, and I don't want America to fight Israel's war either, if it's just Israel's war. And so when I found out that it was pushing 90% favorable among registered Republicans, I thought, okay, good, that's good. It's doing more good than harm. I saw because I post the right angles on X, and I saw on X a little segment. It was 20, 30 seconds. Somebody, of course, said taken out of context. I don't know if it was or isn't, but I saw the one and only. God, I've forgotten that twerp's name now. Nick Fuentes saying he hopes Iran wins, and people in the comments section, one person in the comment section said, that's taken out of context. But, that is a real visceral dividing line. Assuming he did not take it out of context, that is a real visceral dividing line when our people are under fire. When somebody says I'm on the other side, then that's really destructive. I said a couple months ago now that we were at peak Fuentes, and since all the fuss about Fuentes coming out and talking, has died down, it seems like every time he opens his mouth, he just does more and more damage. So that's good. I just don't, I'm real comfortable with this Iran situation. Real comfortable with it. Hang on. Yeah. Israel did not force us into this. Look, let's just deal with that point, then I'll come back to the details of the question. Gaza does not pose a threat to the United States. Iran absolutely does. Has been at war with us for pushing 50 years, and Donald Trump isn't starting this war; he's just ending it. Airtechie says, you had Dem Paul saying similar things like the U.S. is doomed to fail. That's okay. Let him say that. As long as we maintain this kind of strike from the sky attitude, I am fine with that. Hand-to-hand or close quarters combat in the streets of Tehran, another story completely. I don't see any way we'd be going down that road. So the argument that this is Israel's war and that we're doing it for Israel just doesn't make sense. It's in our united interests, both of our interests, and we've been helping each other out, and so I think that can be put away. I think the much larger point in terms of because Eric was talking about the local, domestic politics, midterms, and so on. Maybe this will help answer a question that I have not been able to answer in almost 20 years of looking at this. But I wonder if this is going to have any effect on the American Jewish vote. Wukong with a super chat there telling us about the KC-135. We just heard about it. Thank you for the super chat, and I'll look that up when I get into it. The Gorn just moved behind me. Yeah, he does that. He sneaks up on me. Gets closer every couple seconds. He moves very slowly. So the question, I know that the Persian vote would be nice, but the Jewish vote is a significant percentage and extremely heavily Democratic, and it makes me really wonder what is it going to take for American Jews to understand who's their friends and not? You would have thought that after the Gaza thing and all of these pro-Palestinian protests, these anti-Israel demonstrations and stuff coming from the left, you would have thought that American Jews would finally wake up. But no. And taking out this Iran's not just a threat to Israel, obviously through Iran. Iran also is Hamas, and Iran is Hezbollah, and Iran is the Houthis, the 3H Club. And if you don't get that taking the Islamic regime out of Iran is the single greatest thing you can do for Israel's security as well as America's security. We took all of those, almost all of the casualties we took in Iraq and Afghanistan were tied to Iran directly or relatively directly. And then it's like, what's it going to take? What's it going to take? And sometimes I realize there's nothing. This is their identity, and they can't switch. But it's got to have some effect. So I'm hoping it has another effect on that. Let me see here. We got another super chat from looks like 11 Bravo Crunchy 22. Saw today that the U.S. has been deliberately not bombing Israel's nuclear fuel storage facility. The suspicion is SOCOM forces will be going in to either destroy or secure the refined material. Yes. And I got to tell you, if we put in special forces teams to go get that nuclear material, I said I don't want boots on the ground. I'm making a distinct exception there. I've known these guys, and many of you have known them. I said it. Dave Big Booty said I said Israel. I'm sure I meant Iran. I don't remember where I misspoke, but I'm sure I did. But these guys, SEALs and the Deltas especially, these guys are unbelievably lethal. They're just phenomenally lethal. And if these guys go in to do something like secure, I believe I heard that the Iranian uranium is at 60% enrichment, and if they combine they have a reservoir of 60% enriched uranium. If they're ready to sacrifice some of that volume and concentrate it, they can get it to weapons grade in just a couple of weeks. So that has to be secured. There's no question about that. And I keep I have an enormous confidence in these special forces of ours. And the great unknown is are these new weapons that we used in Venezuela. These Venezuelan soldiers said, first of all, the lights went out, and then we were confused, and we're bleeding through our ears and our nose, and we don't know where we are, and all of this high-tech stuff. Plus, Trump has said we have weapons that you can't even conceive of, which is what my right angle's about this week. Will be up in a couple days, I guess. Iranium. That's funny, Jake. Yeah, we got to go get their Iranium. Marisha says in the chat section, would you be okay with Israel, Saudi Arabia, and the Kurds sending their own boots on the ground instead of us? 100%. 100%. 100%. I just want to be the sky gods and rain down fury and destruction from above with impunity. That's what the U.S. military costs so much money to do. We've always been willing to spend treasure instead of blood, and that was our policy throughout the Cold War, and I think it should maintain that way. So I don't know how many. I don't know how deep this Iranian resistance will go, but as I was talking on the show with Frank just a little while ago, modern Iran is not a nation in the way that we understand it. It is apparently that 30% number that I heard, 30% of Iranians were Islamic. I could have knocked me over with a feather. But if you've got 70% of the population is Zoroastrianism and speaking Farsi, and they've been saddled and beaten and murdered by 30% of the population that's Islamic and speaks Arabic, then you could put a very secular government in place there and have the Iran that you had before 1979. Kirk says that fanatics fight to the last man. Yes and no. Um, I kind of agree to you. I kind of agree that that the fanatics who are waiting for their 72 virgins would be tempted to fight to the last man, Kirk. But one of the things that we saw even in the early days in Afghanistan was they're all ready to fight to the last man as long as they think they can win or at least kill Americans. I remember a story from 2002. I think we went into Afghanistan, about 4 or 5 months after 9/11, and Al Qaeda was all the rage, and 9/11 caused a huge spike in Al Qaeda's recruitment. And I remember the story very clearly because I thought it was a really important story. So there was a group of like 8 or 9 Pakistanis who went to fight the jihad, go kill Americans. And they crossed the border into Afghanistan and they hooked up with the Taliban and Al Qaeda. And the Afghani Al Qaeda guys really looked down their noses at these Pakistani guys and had them clean latrines and all the rest of this stuff. But the Pakistani jihadis went anyway, and they were in a foxhole or something like that. And there was a American B-52 arc light strike, and most of these Pakistanis were just turned to red mist. But the ones that survived basically said, "We're going home. We came here to kill Americans, and we didn't even see them. We didn't even see contrails." That kind of fight can demoralize even the most fanatical opponents. So think about all the bonsai charges in World War II, right? You're talking about fanatics in war now, and like places like Iwo Jima and starting in Guadalcanal. Let's take Iwo because I know it a little better. So Okinawa as well. So the Japanese would they'd be isolated, be cut off, they're starving, and they know they've got no chance. So what they would do is they would get together at nighttime and they would form these bonsai charges. And if they had 4,000 guys left, they'd probably take 4,000 of them and just start screaming bonsai with their samurai swords and die their honorable death and go to meet their ancestors. And they all got cut down because a bonsai charge was extremely wasteful from the Japanese point of view. You've got 4,000 guys out there, and you're an American and a Marine in a foxhole, and you're trying to hold a perimeter line. What you really want is you want these guys running at you, screaming as loud as they can, standing upright, running at a full tilt. What you don't want are 4,000 guys crawling towards your position under cover of darkness. So these bonsai charges were they're terrifying, and we took a lot of losses from them, but it wasn't smart on their part. But the point I'm trying to make here is those Japanese soldiers were fanatics, and they did the bonsai charges because they thought that they could take a couple of Americans with them. In the islands where there were no Americans, the islands that we hopped over, most of them just surrendered. Now, there's always 1 or 2 that you find up in the caves, and I have a certain admiration for those people, obviously. But anyway, yes, that's exactly right. Andrew DeLay says the surprise of Iwo Jima is the Japanese didn't do a bonsai charge, just fought it out. Yes, by the time we get to Iwo Jima, they understood that this was wasteful. Plus, Iwo Jima had so many tunnels, had so many ways that they could, outflank the Americans. The Marines would get to Iwo Jima, and they'd find a pillbox, they'd clear it and seal it, and then they would move on. And the next thing you know, they're taking fire from the rear because they fought a lot more effectively at Iwo and some degree at Okinawa. Anyway. Kind of got a little off the track there. As far as Eric's question about domestic politics goes, I think we've gained an awful lot more than we've lost, and the big question are those, not even the independents really. It's I don't know. Something about independence to me is just a little hard to understand. There are there are still a few patriotic Democrats, and if the Democratic Party is rooting for our side to lose, then they're gonna lose support. If Donald Trump can wrap this up, and especially if Cuba has a whiff of this freedom fever, and by the time we get to the midterms, you've got free people in Venezuela, Iran, and Cuba, all waving American flags and doing the Trump dance, and the cost is low in lives, then I think that could really make the difference. Really think it could make the difference. So we'll see. All right, moving on. Marusha Dark topic: Iran versus Ayn Rand. Second time asking. Many libertarians are isolationist. I used to be this way and still understand the sentiment. I understand it too. I just don't agree with it. I'd love it if it were true, like many other things. But I'm slowly coming around on the issue. Assuming the conflict isn't completely over by this point, I thought you might find it interesting what that famous libertarian Ayn Rand had to say on the matter, and there's a link. How she believed that the right of self-determination of nations only applied to free peoples, not to dictators, as there's no right to enslave, and how free nations had a right, though not necessarily a duty, to stop them. It seems the issue isn't so much regime change, but ensuring that something worse doesn't follow in the aftermath, like it did in Iraq, Libya, Vietnam, and Afghanistan. At least so far, Trump is being extremely surgical in his foreign policy. Yes, and they say it's not about regime change, but it damn well better be about regime change, because as I mentioned on the one I just put up last night, the Schrodinger's Ayatollah, if this operation is over and the leader of Iran's the first word used to describe him is the Ayatollah somebody or other, then that's a loss. And Trump had said early in this conflict that he was going to veto, and I think this is wise. I think essentially you can basically state Trump's case as, I'm not going to select the leader of Iran, the next leader of Iran, but I am going to have veto power over him. I thought, perfect, chef's kiss on that. And what I heard early in the conflict was Trump saying that one of the conditions of the new leader and the new regime would be that it would have to be a part of the Abraham Accords, which I thought was just a perfect degree of touch. It's not imposing it, but it's managing it. So I feel pretty good about that. Moving on with Marusha's question here. Seems the issue isn't so much regime change, but ensuring that something. Yeah, I got that. Times like this also remind us that Thomas Jefferson, the closest thing we ever had to an anarchist POTUS and the guy who helped pen our founding documents, took out the Barbary pirates and only bothered informing Congress after it was already taken care of. Yes. I'm sure there would have people, well, there wasn't a left then, but if there had been a left, these Barbary pirates were murdering Americans, enslaving millions of people, demanding ransom. And I'm sure that there were proto-leftists there that were saying, well, if you attack the Barbary pirates, you're just going to make them angry, and that'll make more Barbary pirates. And my argument is, no, if you fight the Barbary pirates and you kill them all, then there aren't any Barbary pirates. 11 Bravo Country again says, it's been overdue since '79. Once again, someone else has to clean up Carter's mess. Yes, we should have put an end to this on day 5. And as I've said, this is not Trump starting a war. This is Trump ending a war. It's been going on for 47 years now. So there's that. The Constitution clearly gave Congress the power to declare war, enact tariffs, and so forth, which Trump appears to be violating in a strictly textual sense, like the SCOTUS tariff ruling. Yes, there's the War Powers Act, but Rubio recently said in a presser he feels the war powers are unconstitutional, but everyone still uses it. At the same time, it appears Congress is derelict in its duties and failing to do the right thing. Well, I like what Trump is doing with tariffs, Venezuela and Iran. We have checks and balances for a reason, to stop precedent for someone doing stuff we don't like. How do you personally thread the needle on this when the Constitution and what's morally right are at odds, especially as no one ever sees themselves as the villain? My right angle, hey Gary, my right angle deals with some reports of space-based laser weapons, and I make a very clear point of I'm not debating about whether these things exist. I don't want to talk about whether they exist. I want to talk about what if they exist. What if we have the power to vaporize targets without fallout, without any, essentially, without any collateral damage? We just see a truck we don't like or an aircraft carrier we don't like, and we just zap it from space. What if we have absolute godlike power? Do we deserve it? Should we keep it? What do we do? And I'm not going to go into it because it was a really good segment, and but nevertheless, you have to at least address these moral issues and deal with it. So to address the moral issues here, look, I'm not one of these guys who looks back on the Constitution and says, well, they didn't quite get the modern thing, because that's what they use on the gun argument. They said Second Amendment applied to muskets, not to AR-15s, and I said, well, then the First Amendment only applies to parchment and doesn't apply to internet blogs or any of that stuff. So where I'm going with that is, yes, there's Congress has the authority to declare war. I guess what I'm getting at is, though, I don't even like to find myself in a position of threading the needle, because I find myself sounding an awful lot like Bill Clinton discussing what the meaning of is. But I think you could make the case that clearly what's going on with the United States in Iran is not a civilizational risk to the United States in the way that an actual war would be, take any other war in our history, well, at least prior to and including World War II. You need congressional authority for World War II, World War I, Civil War, all of that. You probably should have had it for Vietnam, and the Gulf of Tonkin resolution was kind of a halfway measure. But, for example, just to take a little more obvious example, would Trump have needed congressional approval for Midnight Hammer? For a one-night raid on an enemy position, does he need constitutional power for that? You could make a good case that he does. But you could also make a case that the founders' desire to put the fate of the nation in the hands of Congress rather than the president, I think, is a really good idea. But the fate of the nation is not really at stake here. At least it doesn't appear to be. And I don't think the founders could have predicted leftism, Marxism, and the fact that half of the Congress would be openly anti-American. I'm sure the founders thought, well, surely those people either would have been voted out of office or else we don't deserve the republic anymore. So that's about where I come down on it. Here we go again. Wukong has a super chat. The Fat Electrician's video covers Jefferson versus the Barbary Pirates. U.S. Marines captured Tripoli, Derna, but a congressman secretly brokered a peace deal, snatching victory away before it was official. I heard something along those lines. Yeah, I'm just curious to know about the political party of that congressman, because I suspect their record is unbroken as far as that party goes, but you never know. So, all right, moving on. Guy Balo, second time. All right, here we go. Apparently, I'm not the only one who's a little skeptical about the narrative that Kuwait accidentally, we talked about this earlier, accidentally shot down 3 F-15s. 1 could be an accident, 2 a terrible mistake, but 3 seems a bit suspicious. If this were indeed intentional, what should be done about it? I'm afraid that we're forgetting that most of the countries in the region are not our friends. We just happen to be fighting a common enemy, much like our alliance with Russia in World War II. Thoughts? Hang on, there's a mystery guest at the door. Hang on a second. Ladies and gentlemen, fresh from a interesting trip abroad, we have here a special guest who I would like to introduce to all of you. We got in a second, I guess. Yeah. Why did it get so bright all of a sudden? Oh, it's because somebody needs to be sitting there, I guess. Here she comes. Can you squeeze in a little bit? I'll widen it up a little bit. There we go. Hi, honey.
Hi.
Just, oops, go this way. Man, it got so bright all of a sudden. It must be your hair. What happened to the image? It's just wild. So everybody's been asking. I gotta find out what's going on with that. Hang on a
That's
second.
my hair, probably.
Let me just dim it down. No, something happened to that contrast. That's so strange. Oh well, we'll worry about it later. It's these guys. I don't know what happened. It's her brilliance. It's just her beauty. It's just overwhelmed the lens. Gosh. Well, we're a little overexposed, but you get the idea. Anyway, here she is. Everybody's so happy to see you. Welcome home, Mrs. Whittle. Hope you and Deanna are all right. I was just about to ask if she made it out safely. Glad she's okay, and so on and so on and so on. I've told these fine people many times, but how grateful we are for their support, and that it gave you a lot of comfort over there during those tough times. And so.
Yes, when I read the comments, I cried. I'm very thankful for people who pray for me and for my daughter.
So you were sitting there, and you had called, and I said, I think we can extend the time, and you were so happy, you just squealed, and
Yes.
then you were sitting outside, and you saw this triangular drone flying overhead, right? You saw one from the cafe?
No, that was day before, and next day we scream "Ura" with my daughter, so we stay more in that beautiful place, really beautiful place. But later my daughter found something on her phone, and she said, "Mom, Iran and America in a war, and they going to bomb each other." And I just laughed, and I said, like, "Oh, come on, Diana, it's not possible." And in this time, it was 2 balconies opened, and outside was ba-bam, boom, ba-bam, just so loud. So we ran to each other and hugged each other and start crying very loud. And that was a very bad time in my life, And after that, you want to wake up. You want just to wake up and like it's terrible dream, but it was not. So we spent time till the evening, and after emergency alarm came to our phones.
I'm just going to turn on the backlighting a little bit because this
Okay.
is bothering me so much. Keep going.
So they say that we have to find the shelters from bombing.
Yeah, and there were no bomb shelters or anything in there. It's just like a hallway and then a kind of a laundry room, right? We saw a laundry room, and Deanna slept in this laundry room the first night because it was the only place that didn't have any glass that could come smashing in.
Yes, it was very loud, and a loud emergency sound. And for Diana, it was something new because in Sochi they have different alarm they have outside.
Yeah, like a siren.
Like,
kind of.
can I have a water?
Yes, you may. Here you go.
Yeah. So we heard few explosions more, and we received this emergency alert somewhere like 1 at night. And Bill called me, I called him, and he said, show me their flat. So I show Bill every corner of that flat. It's a beautiful apartment, by the way. And we were on 15th floor of 45 level building, like stores, you know.
Mm-hmm. Stories, right?
Yes, and Bill found out that that place in the laundry could be a better place because there are no windows. So in this case, usually windows is very, very dangerous. And we put all we have, like all our pillows to laundry room, and sat there, hug each other, and cry. I was crying, and I understand that my daughter, she probably wants kind of a courage from me, but that was difficult, really. It was like, come on, it's not true. And after Diana stayed sleep in the laundry room, and Bill found for me another room or another place between two big
Windows. Yeah.
it's windows to the floor.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And it's just small space between. It was like a wall. So I put also everything on the floor, and we slept like that first night. But next day, we start sleeping in the beds.
yeah.
So because, yes, and it was explosions during the nights, but I always thought Diana sleeps, doesn't hear, and Diana didn't sleep. She thought, oh, my, like mom, sleeping. And it's good that she sleeps. So we heard everything, and after we found out that our flights canceled, that everything canceled, that they bombed airport, and I felt like we are in a trap. We didn't see each other for 3 years, and we are in a trap, in a country that's so far from us. And before we thought we will meet in
Mexico.
Mexico, and something happened to Mexico. You know what? That was kind of a. And when we met, it was like, come on, that's so good that we didn't go to Mexico.
Yeah, because it would have been dangerous in Mexico.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a rough week or two, and getting information was hard. The Emirates Airlines was just completely overloaded. Couldn't reach anybody on the website. Couldn't reach anybody on the phones. Couldn't reach anybody anywhere. At first, it looked like it was maybe calming down because there was like the first attacks, and then I think it was like the second or third day, and you were outside, and there were people outside jet skiing and stuff, and then there's an air raid, and then she got woken up in the middle of the night with like boom, boom, these two loud booms and stuff. It's like, oh boy, this isn't going to be good.
Yes, we needed to go and change the tickets for me, but while we wanted to go to, we need to go to airport. Airport is the target, and to take Diana with me, we tried 2 times, but it was alarm, so we stay home.
Yeah, there was one time when she got the all clear, and she and Deanna were calling the taxi, and they were just on their way to go downstairs to get in the taxi, go to the airport, and then I heard it on the phone, it's like, oh, air raiding detected, incoming, that kind of thing. So, UA got hit the worst, Alex Hooper says. I am still gobsmacked by this. I could not believe that Iran would attack any of the Arab countries. But then I saw that they actually launched more drones against Dubai than they did against Tel Aviv or something, and I can't make any sense out of that. I really can't.
Yes, and I was in panic, and my daughter said, "Mom, I live like that for 2 years now
In Sochi.
in Sochi." I said, "What?" She just didn't tell me. I knew they bombed Sochi, but it was just a few times when debris from
Debris?
yes, from the drones.
Yep.
They fell down. But she said, "Mom, here is much louder."
Yeah,
So-
fortunately, Sochi Airport is quite a long way from Sochi. It's a pretty good drive. But yeah, so getting Diana out of Dubai consisted of finding a window when the Dubai airport wasn't attacked by Iranian drones, and then the Sochi airport wasn't under attack by Ukrainian drones.
Yes, the day when she traveled, Diana flew from airport at 4 in the morning. After her flight, they closed airport for 3 days, not 12 hours, for 3 days. So I would wait for her in Dubai for 3 days, but it didn't happen. So we thought, my God, we're so lucky. We're so lucky to get
Get out, yeah, get out of that,
Get out
get
of-
out of that war zone. Get to someplace nice and safe like Dubai.
yes, and her way out was just terrible too.
Yeah, I told them that they got diverted to Mineralnie
Mm-hmm.
and that the airport was deserted. So Diana flew out of Dubai about 12 hours after Natasha did, and they were scheduled to do a refueling stop in Egypt, which I didn't really understand at first because it looked like a pretty relatively short flight, but they did. So they thought they'd be on the ground for like 45 minutes, but she was there for like over 2 hours or something. She, as I mentioned before, Diana's flight just disappeared off the flight tracker once it got to the bottom of the Black Sea. And then you zoom out and there's nothing over all of southern Russia. It's just blank. Obviously they're flying, but they turned off their transponders or something. And so they're going to land in Sochi. Sochi's got an air raid warning, so they divert to Mineralnie. And the whole plane empties into the airport, and the airport's cold and dark, and there's nobody there, right?
It's almost zero, and people were in
Centigrade.
yes,
Yeah, so about 30 degrees in there. Yeah.
and people didn't have warm clothes.
Yeah, they just got out of the Dubai desert.
Yeah, and they have to go and take their suitcases to the border. So they made border in Mineralnie instead of Sochi.
Customs.
Customs.
Mhm.
So she got her big suitcase and other case and people from that plane, they go a little bit up on the hills, dragging that suitcase behind them, but it was like they were 10 hours already traveling. They were so tired, they have to open suitcases, and each of them was under officers' questions for like 40 minutes.
So every
each of
passenger
them.
got questioned for 40 minutes coming out of Dubai back to their home in Russia.
And also they block the phone. Now it's rules. When you go from somewhere out of Russia, they block your phone.
Yep, so you come home and your phone doesn't work. And so Diana couldn't call us, and she knew that we would start getting worried about her, and she couldn't get a hold of us. And the whole thing of that whole story about what happened in Moralnia, the thing that really freaked me out the most and pissed me off the most was that when they finally reloaded the plane to go from Mineralnia back to Sochi, apparently the plane was half full, right? So half of the total people got lost in the airport, or they didn't know where to go, and nobody went
Maybe
looking
they
for
just
them.
go to
Maybe they
different
just went home?
small
Yeah, could be.
cities, but
be.
or they decided to get there differently. Maybe taxi, which is it's very far.
Yeah, it's about a 3-hour drive, I think, 2 to 3 hour
yeah,
drive.
more. Yeah.
So that was the fun and exciting reunion trip. I told Natasha during the trip it's very hard to understand it. In fact, it's hard to believe, but my experience had been from talking to people who'd been involved in these kind of situations. Like my mom was in London during the Blitz, and even people like my Aunt Marty, whose husband was in the Pacific, and her younger brother, my dad, was in Germany. They said that the war years were the best years of their lives, and I said to Natasha, it's going to be hard for you to realize now, but you guys are going to get so much closer together because of this than you would if you were just having fun on the beach. You know, it's a high price to pay, but you guys were closer there than like ever. I think.
Yeah, no, we close, very much close, but that gave us so much of love to each other. That situation. So, but really, it's such a beautiful place, and the water like I want, it was warm, beautiful, green, clean water, and very nice people, very friendly people.
And everything's brand new and spotless and clean, and she showed up pictures of videos of this hotel that had swimming pools on the balcony. Each apartment had its own swimming pool up in the air. You know, that was kind of amazing.
For 60
For what?
floor, 60 floors.
60 floors?
That's a thing that we even can't imagine. They did beautifully, and I don't understand why we didn't go earlier. Why we did not? It's just like very strange. We get just in that corridor. Yeah, it's like a corridor, like how
window,
they call
little window.
Yes, but
Window of opportunity.
also when planets in a very strange and very dangerous constellations.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's like last corridor I broke my hands, one of them very, very badly. This corridor.
One of our regulars here, Marusha Dark, asked if you would talk about the year of the fire horse.
Hmm.
And if you do, could I just run to the bathroom for a second? Because I was on TV for an hour and I drank so much water, I'm just about to pop. I'll be right back. Can you talk about fire horse just for a little bit?
I don't know what to say about. I know that it's just people who born once in 60 years. So I'm 66, and this year very important for somebody who born in this time. I just you can go. I will
Read the
how
comments?
to find. Yes.
Here we go. Right here. Right here. And right here. Airteki says, can you speak about fashion? Boy, can she ever. I'll be right back.
Speak about fashion. No, I love fashion, and I was a model many years ago. But since I came to LA, I don't see that people wear something that really in fashion, like in Europe and like in Russia. And coming to Dubai, I saw so many people. It's beautiful dresses, beautiful hair, makeup, and they love brands, like bags and shoes, and everybody like wears some jewelry. And this is a really place to wear beautiful things and to enjoy it. And when I came to America, it was Burbank airport, and it's like such a big difference for me. So I love people in America. I love people in Dubai, in Russia, everywhere. It's just a kind of a more relaxed here. I don't want to say I don't like it, because honestly, for me, the costume, like a sport costume, much more comfortable. But that's the difference I saw. can you drive between Sochi and Dubai? um, it's probably not, because it's big deserts. I'm not sure. It's people, when they escaped, they took some kind of a bus trip and some trips, so they did, but they go to Armenia, something like that. Are you still posting videos? It was kind of a period that I didn't do it, because when I broke my hand, it's mentally, it's put me down very very strongly. But now when I came back, I started doing everything at the same time, just music, videos, and I have new ideas, so I'm going to introduce them too. So I miss these things, and after that disaster we came, I think, I don't know what I will be afraid of, but of course we're always afraid for our families. Yeah.
Brian says, we have to tell you, Natasha, that Bill wanted to be there for you two girls so bad. It was heartbreaking for him, even though he may not admit it. Yeah, I would have shot those sons of bitches down. I would have just gone out there with my pistol arrow and just popped them out of the sky. Actually,
That was funny, and
actually, she's the one who should have been doing the shooting. I should have just brought the buckmark, because she's just a crack shot. It's impossible to believe how good a
it's
shot she is.
easy to say, I will just go with my, that's when it's real explosion. It's so deep in our DNA, you're just afraid. I saw everybody. It was out. We also saw how 2 rockets were flying towards us.
Mm-hmm.
No, that was like kind of a behind big buildings. But it looks like firework, which does not explode.
Yeah, just the loud ones. Boom,
Yeah.
boom.
And one of them, on our eyes, one of them just was destroyed, but one of them fell down. We didn't hear boom boom, but we found out that this one fell down on their hotel.
John Pershing says, by the way, since you're both here, happy early birthdays. Hoorah!
Hurrah. Thank you.
We're thinking about a trip to the Middle East.
And somebody who said they enjoy my stuff. Thank you so much. It means a lot to me. I will continue. And it's because Bill helps me, He taught me for many programs that I didn't know, just to put videos together and to make sound, to make like many things. I don't think I will do it without him. So
Well, I just
this
say,
is very important.
well, first of all, thank you, and secondly, this crowd has been so great and so supportive. She reads the comments. A lot of the time she watches the show live and reads the comments. But I got to tell you, so Natasha obviously was just a internationally known photographer when I met her, and then she got into painting, and the painting was just amazing. And she got into jewelry, and the jewelry was amazing. And then adding jewelry to fashion, so she's got all these jeans jackets. So our house is like, it's like a gigantic art gallery / factory, and she's got a couple of YouTube channels. But the one thing about that I've been saying and we've been talking about is that she's really the product. That The music is the other one. So with the AI videos and the music and the painting and the jewelry and and all that, and it's a little hard to break through that, being shy about being on camera. But I mean, look at these comments. They told me to get out of the frame. The show's going downhill once I came back, and I'm telling you, honey, people just love to talk to you, and she's always they just everybody asks about you every episode, and you would be great on camera. Great on camera.
Yeah, I was, and when I teach people with photography, I was very good at that. It was just a very big period when I didn't do it, and
Master classes around all around Europe, yeah.
hmm So I love to teach, and I love to see people's eyes when they are just kind of like sparkles, inside of that people. That I love.
Donnie Girl was asking about, I was talking about all the things you make, and she puts in capital letters, are they for sale? And I'm saying yes.
I will show them, yeah.
Yeah, you should show them. I would love to have you show them. They're fantastic.
Okay.
We need a show with just you and the guy in the background, just you and the lizard guy is what they're saying. They want me out. They want me out of the show, and they want just you and the lizard guy in the background there.
Thank you for Russian. Привет, Natasha.
What did he say?
Hi, Natasha, we love you. That's in Russian.
Mm-hmm.
Very nice, thank you. Thank you, guys. Thank you.
Yeah, so, okay. I wanted everybody to see you, and yes, Donnie Girl says yes, she wants to see them. And I've been telling you, these things are great. They're great. We just have to, she has the same problem I do, which is just so many ideas and so many things, and then the mechanical stuff of being organized enough to set up we need like an agent or a manager or something like that.
I'm very bad at selling things, but if I wear something, people always ask, where did you buy it?
Mm-hmm.
How much is that? So I probably should wear this.
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
And I put a link to her meditation channel a couple times on the show, and lately to your retro music fashion things with all these incredible fashions that you designed for AI. Mm-hmm. And I think those would make great prints. I think people would love to wear that stuff. I think they just would look fantastic. Like these prints. I get a lot of comments on these bitch and bowling shirts that I wear.
Mm-hmm.
So.
Yeah. What blowing shorts?
What's that?
What, Natasha?
Bowling shirts?
Yeah.
Yeah, these.
Bowling shorts.
Yeah, I've got about 12
okay.
of these things or something. Airtechie says you're now the new face of the Colonies Project, and I'll just be writing and developing, and you'll be doing all of the social media contact stuff, and I'll just be in the background. So.
Mm-hmm.
All right, sweetheart. Well, I'm going to finish up these questions, and then we're going to do some more AI work afterwards. But she says you can do a live sale on the channel someday. That's a great idea, Dawn.
Mm-hmm.
We could just do a stratosphere sale show, and we don't have to worry about advertising. We'll just put them up there, and if people want to buy them, they can buy them, and that would be great. Because I think that she's just got so much talent. Everything she touches is just amazing. It's absolutely amazing, and a little embarrassing for me, frankly. I would be so good at all this stuff all the time. She was the one who got me started on. You were the one who got me started on the AI video.
Yes, and I try and with ChatGPT. That was kind of Billy, please try.
Oh, I don't need any ChatGPT. I don't need them to teach me how to write anything.
But now technology it's his new excitement, and he likes to do it, and he's very good at that. It's really true. He was waiting for that all his life, so he can do movie by himself now. Absolutely.
Working on it. The Strato Shopping channel. I love it. That's great. It's absolutely great.
So I wanted to say thank you, everybody, I really appreciate, because I know your voice and your praise saved us. I absolutely do. So thank you so much again. And thank you, Billy. Okay.
Can I get off my show before you take it over? Because I know I'm going to be replaced here. Thank you, honey.
Okay.
Yeah, it's a tough life old Billy's got here. I don't know how I managed to keep it up, honestly. Let me turn up the brightness now that she's gone. Now it's just me. There's just I'm just soaking up light like a black hole of mediocrity. Yes, she is amazing. Thank you, Milo. Thank all of you. And great. And honestly, your support really enormously helped. When I did the Skin in the Game right angle as well, it's just she just, you know, when it would get bad and she would be, you know, 4 o'clock in the morning and she's and she just wake up and she's worrying what this next drone's going to be, and she just come and read the comment section on these things. So she's not kidding. She's the bomb. Yes, I did outrun my coverage on the punt. So there you go. That's what all men do. I had never met a guy I liked, who I respected, who didn't say that he married up. So anyway, yeah, she's the best. Still, I don't know. Honey, they want to know where you went and how come they're left watching this old ugly guy. That's what they said. Nah, just stay there. I'm getting booted off my own show. Yeah. Anyway, I'm glad you guys got a chance to see her, and you really do help enormously, and especially with the encouragement, you know, because breaking into the selling yourself as a product thing is a tough thing to get over, especially if you're not used to seeing yourself on film or hearing yourself or anything like that. So yeah, thanks. So she's home. All right, so moving on here. We got a Guy Balo, Roadrunner, Capital G Geek, Quibo, which I might punt, and Braden. All right, here we go. Roadrunner, hey Roadrunner, how are you? Greetings, friend Bill. Greetings, friend Roadrunner. After decades of the Democrats calling every conservative in the country a Nazi, a racist, and a bigot, it seems like the state of Maine, the same state that gave us Susan Collins, is likely to elect an actual Jew-hating, Nazi tattoo-wearing Holocaust denier as their senator, with what appears to be the full support of the Democrats and the lamestream media. What is happening to the citizens of our country? I hate watching the news about America and thinking, WTF? Help me, Obi Bill Kenobi, you're my only hope. One of the things that I was talking with Frank Gaffney about before we did the show tonight, and this goes to the whole idea of the colonies, and especially to the people that support it. It's been a long time since we have seen routinely and regularly seen anything positive about the country in the pop culture. Obviously, you know, when we were growing up, you know, there was a period there when it wasn't just Strong Dads. There was a period there when they made a bunch of shows where it was just the dad. Mom had died or something, you know, like Courtship of Betty's Father and Family Affair and, you know, all of this stuff. But there hasn't been, starting right around I want to say like early to mid 70s, right around the time that Maude got spun off of All in the Family, that's when it got to be cool to like mock the husbands. And I remember we used to watch the Sonny and Cher show all the time, just because it was the only thing on. And I remember just being a little kid, I was, you know, probably 13, 14 or something, I remember watching Sonny and Cher, which was a hugely popular show, and I remember that show was nothing. The end of the show, especially the monologue at the end of the show, was nothing about Cher making fun of Sonny. Just constantly putting him down with this smug sort of grin, and all the women are just cheering and stuff. And I just remember thinking, I love Sonny. Sonny just seemed like the coolest guy in the world. He just seemed like an awesome guy. And this skinny bitch is just constantly just knocking him down. And I'm like, what's going on here? I just, and it just went on and on and on and on and on. And then, many years later, decades later, you started getting the ads where it's like, it's an ad for insurance or something, and the wife is in the kitchen and she's doing the taxes, and the husband drives the car into the pool. Honey, do we have a spoon anywhere? And roll her eyes, and then they just disappeared. Then they just plain vanished. You just see ads for Disneyland. I've seen a lot of ads for Disneyland. We're just mom and the kids. And there are no strong role models, and this is what has become. It wasn't, I certainly didn't start thinking that this would be about families, this science fiction thing, but it's actually more important now than the telling of American history. This sense of, we got to show people what a positive future looks like, and we'll come back to that more on Monday. But one of the things, Tim Allen is a good example, and Cosby made a big improvement. Kind of ironic how that story ended, but even when the left, we've talked about this 100 times, when the left tries to mock strong male characters, you end up with like the Alec Baldwin guy on 30 Rock, or Denny Crane, or the original with Archie Bunker, Ron Swanson. Every time they try to make a joke out of like a super masculine guy, that character goes on to be by far the most popular character on the show. Ron Swanson is terrific. The guy who plays Ron Swanson is just a complete D-bag. Although I did love the whole Sam Elliott arc where, comes in like he's going to be like, he's like the only guy on the planet who's more masculine than Ron Swanson, and it turns out, he's a vegetarian who likes wearing sandals and stuff. That was just classic. It was classic. I think part of the specific answer to your question, Roadrunner, is if you call people Nazis for 20, 30 years, and one of them shows up with an actual swastika, you no longer think about millions of people in death camps. It's a rhetorical flourish. It's like calling him a Luddite or a Packers fan or whatever. The culture, politics is downstream of culture, and the culture creates opinions and impressions, and it also reflects them. So it's this feedback loop, and you go from James T. Kirk, the Starship Enterprise, who's basically, there's not a female that comes on board the ship that he's not pawing, and that's probably maybe a little bit too far off the edge, to Picard, who is essentially asexual, to Starfleet Academy. I don't want to hear any arguments about Picard, because it's like, oh, he had one affair with this woman. Okay, fine. I sit there and sip your Earl Grey. And now on Starfleet Academy, Klingons are wearing skirts, and they're homosexuals, and they're really excited about getting down with all the other guys at Starfleet Academy. And when all of these reference points are taken away and there's nothing in their place, then you end up disconnected and adrift. There was one other little point I was going to make. What was it? There's no anchor, and there's no example. And Rad Robot says Riker was the real man of TNG. I completely agree. Riker deserved to wear the velour. He deserved to wear the gold velour. But anyway, to your question, Roadrunner, it's like you can't expect for people to. The left is actively, aggressively destroying these things intentionally. Intentionally. Starfleet Academy is just the most recent and most appalling example. It's all run by women. It's all completely illogical. It's all based on emotion. Apparently, one of the episodes, all of these, kind of space pirates are boarding the Athena, and the way that they get rid of them is that this one Betazoid woman gets angry enough, so she just screams like they do in the woods or in Times Square. Ah! Scream their rage, and their heads explode. Okay, all right, okay. So things are so out of balance, and the men, young men are demoralized and hungry for direction, but the women are just plain. The men have been suppressed and repressed, but the women have been remade into monsters. And what are they going to do until they see something better? Think about all the shows in the 50s, that got that just owned the 50s. I mean, you had things like Leave It to Beaver, where you got a strong dad, and you had Father Knows Best, and you had Bonanza, and and all of these things where it's like everything was in its place. Conservative principles are not conservative principles because people chose them. Conservative principles are what we all agree on have worked best over the course of human history. That's why they are. The nuclear family, mom and dad and kids, produce the happiest and the most productive results. A kid that grows up with a mom and a dad and a family, intact family, is as healthy as humans get. They're much healthier than kids that are product of harems, and they're much healthier than kids that are product of broken homes or single parents. And that's why we support it, because it works. And it works because it flows with biology instead of trying to beat it down and go against it. Darth Chuck Mercer says 25-year-old new guy at work is conservative. He's having trouble finding a girl in a 70% Democrat county. In college for anthropology. Crusades is his focus. Good for him. Well, I'll tell you something, and this should be very encouraging, despite the fact that it is what it is. The thing that you should hang on to is that, because this is critical, the most progressive women are not attracted to liberal men of any kind. The most progressive women, the furthest left-leaning women, have no interest whatsoever in left-leaning feminist men, because it's not ringing their bells, and it's just not. And that should be something we should all take comfort in. I have seen tons and tons and tons of videos of women basically saying, I'm a liberal and I want a liberal boyfriend, but I'm looking for a manly man, and I'm just looking for that manly liberal progressive. And it'd be like, good luck with that, sister. I saw one that really had an effect on me. It was this woman was probably in 25 or 26, somewhere around in there. And she said, I met this guy, strong guy, and I fell in love with him, and I felt the feminism draining out of my body, she said. I just wanted to make him dinner, and I wanted to make sure he was getting enough vitamins, and I wanted to take care of him, and I wanted to make sure that this and this and this and this and this. And I thought, isn't that great? Isn't that great? But now, I mean, if you look at, and it all comes from the top down, right? It's Kathleen Kennedy destroyed Star Wars because Kathleen Kennedy is a mentally ill, extraordinarily angry, bitter, untalented bitch who used to get coffee for George Lucas and is determined to get her revenge on men. And so she's not just ended Luke Skywalker, she's unmanned him. and then destroyed him. And same thing for Han Solo, deadbeat dad, lost old, confused man. First you unman them, and then you destroy them. And the same thing with Star Trek and this Alex Kurtzman. Kurtzman is double disqualified. At least he's triple disqualified. Kurtzman is the guy behind Discovery and Picard and Strange New Worlds and obviously Starfleet Academy, but he's triple disqualified for being in charge of Star Trek. Number one, he has no scientific background at all, so it's called science fiction. And if you don't know anything, I mean you don't have to be a physicist, but if you don't know anything about science, you're disqualified. Second way he's disqualified is he's gay, and he represents 2 to 3% of the population, which would be fine if he was okay with having that degree of representation on the show. But since he's a gay, feminist, leftist who openly said, we're going to use Star Trek for important things like Black Lives Matter and all the rest of it, he does not represent the population at large, and he's forcing his ideology. He's forcing a 5% ideology on 95% of the population. But the third reason he's disqualified is he has no talent whatsoever. He's got nothing. He's not smart. He's not bright. He has no insight. He has no vision. He's just been handed this gift that he understands is a hypodermic needle to inject his political message under the skin, because people will watch it not because they want the message. 2% ideology, not 5, says Darth Chuck. You're right. So 2%. So he understands he's got a chance to get people to listen to a message that nobody wants, because people still had some warm feelings for Star Trek. So Mauritius says, how do these people keep getting into positions of authority? There's actually I thought about that for a second. I said, I don't know if I can explain it, and then I realized, no, I can. There is see, I live in both of these worlds, right? And the reason, to whatever degree I'm unique, it's because I'm this hybrid. So I can look at show business. I mean, I was a theater major, right? So on some level, I'm kind of a theater kid. But really, in my heart, I'm a steely-eyed missile man, fighter pilot, astronaut. I've got both of these skill sets. I've got experience with both of them. I've got a passion for both of them, and colonies is a way for me to put them together. But as a general rule, having been around actors since I was 15, that's quite a while now, after half a century being around them, actors are, I'll give you the good stuff first. They're incredibly fun to be around. They're entertaining, they're funny, they're interesting. They're flamboyant and interesting. And hanging out with them is tremendous. Glamorous, most cases, really beautiful, all of that. But they're children, and it's really only the most self-aware of them that realize they're children. James Wood, for example, he's a brilliant guy. He went to MIT, and James Wood understands that acting is essentially a childish thing. I'm the first person to admit it. When I see things like when I did a bumpy ride home and I saw these astronauts and this stuff, I just practically cried. It was like, damn, that's awesome. It's make-believe. The problem is that most of them are not self-aware enough to realize that they are childish, and they seek gravitas. They seek meaning. And this is the unholy alliance: Hollywood and Washington. Hollywood gloms onto Washington because they want power. Washington gloms onto Hollywood because they want glamour, and it worked for the longest time. It's not working anymore, but it worked for 50, 60 years. So the reason so many studio executives are left-wing is because right-wing, conservative, practical people don't go into the make-believe business. They don't understand it, and they want nothing to do with it. you know, for virtually all of human history, actors were not allowed in town, certainly not overnight. Actors were looked upon as prostitutes and lepers because they kind of are. They were never taken seriously. They were Shakespeare before Shakespeare became Shakespeare at the I forget where he was before they built the Globe. I want to say maybe the Swan, whatever theater he was in. But Shakespeare, when he was a touring actor, this touring company would go to a town and they would have to stop outside the town and they'd have to send a delegation into town to talk with the mayor to see if the mayor would let the actors into the town for 24 hours so they could put on a show and then boot them back out again. And this is wise. This is practical trial and error knowledge. So there's that. And the things that make people good engineers make for very bad actors. And the things that make people good actors make for very bad engineers. And the problem is that actors are more convincing than engineers until it's time to drive over the bridge. One of the favorite things I ever said, I just love it so much, I repeat it fairly often, but I just love it. I would rather listen to an engineer sing a Broadway tune than drive over a bridge designed by an actor. And the problem is we never get to drive over bridges designed by actors. And when conservatives try to make movies, as a general rule, it's like an engineer singing a Broadway tune. It's not effective. There's very few people that have that degree of creativity and yet enough of a grasp on reality to remain conservative. Is to understand the difference, right? To understand the difference. This is all make-believe. It's got power. It can convince people, but it's not real. And so many of these people think it is real. And so many of these people are just wannabes. Not just wannabe in terms of talent. They all want to be seen as smart. So they all figure out what do the smart people say. This is my Island 120 theory. And so they all agree. So there you go. Roadrunner says at Sky Fairbanks, with actors, you would rather hang out with actors if you want to be entertained, by engineers if you want to survive, which was the exact premise of my Tribes essay back to the Eject that really got me like completely launched. So there it is. Moving on, we got a capital G Geek, Braden Higby, and Quibo. I'm gonna, if you could just repost that on Monday. That's really kind of a Monday night question, so we'll take it there. So capital G Geek, greetings from the swamps of Northern Virginia, swampy place at Northern Virginia. Not about Iran. Okay. I've heard you talk about protecting people and shooting at drones, etc. Knowing that you feel this way, can you explain why so few people actually do things? Larry Nassar molested hundreds of girls on the U.S. gymnastics team, and none of the fathers assaulted him. Thousands of people watched a loved one's last minutes via Zoom during COVID, and nobody shot their way into a hospital. People taking vengeance is so rare that we actually know and remember their names. Gary Plausch and Aaron Spencer will be remembered for a long time. Are people just too uncomfortable to do anything? Will the plummeting trust in the legal system cause an increase in vigilantes? Here's my take on this, capital G. The reason that we don't see citizens doing more is because it has become clear to citizens that the state is on the side of the criminals and not on the side of the citizens, at least in these metropolitan high crime areas. If I was in a Target and I saw somebody walking out of that Target with a shopping cart full of stuff that they didn't pay for, and the store people are saying, hey, I would stop that person. I would just stop it. I could not, what's the word I'm looking for? Suffer it. I wouldn't suffer it. But now I have to ask myself, so if I detain this person until the police come and it turns into a scuffle, guess who's going to jail? The person who's stealing hundreds or thousands of dollars worth of merchandise? No. No, they're not going to jail. I'm going to jail. And that is the fundamental difference. How many times do you think that people have had to you can't expect the law enforcement to be to maintain the law. Law enforcement's job is to catch lawbreakers, but it's the citizenry and it's the accepted norm that maintains the law. And we didn't see shoplifting like this when I was a kid because people would have stopped them. They would have just stopped them. Now, if you stop them, I get in trouble. Somebody kicks in my window and comes into my house at 2 o'clock in the morning while we're sleeping, and I unload a pistol into that guy. I'm the one who can get sued and go to jail and pay reparations and damages and all the rest of this stuff. And I had this advice which was so illuminating because it was so ridiculous. I talked to a policeman here a long time ago, long before I lost the weapons in the tragic boating accident. But I had a cop I met at a shooting range, and he said, because I asked him, what do I have to do if I really do have to defend this house? And he said, and this is pretty much verbatim, he said, Bill, if you ever have to use a pistol in California, empty the mag into the guy. What? He said, empty the mag into the guy. And while you're at it, throw a couple rounds into the ceiling. Why? He says, because if you put one round into the guy and he goes down, then they will say that you were under control. And if you were under control in California, then you should have shot the knife out of his hand. What? That's how it works. However, if you mag dump on the guy, your defense will be that you were so panicked and you were so out of your mind with fear that you reflexively fired off these rounds and you couldn't control yourself, and that's your best defense in California. So I said, so make sure I get this right. If that situation should ever occur, the fact that I keep my head, that I don't panic, that I use minimum effective force, and that I am in control of the situation. And then the guy cut me off. He said, yes, that'll send you to jail. You have to convince California juries that you are as scared and as incompetent as they are. Otherwise, you will be perceived as the threat, and they will literally take that argument like you should have shot him in the toe, or shot his shoelaces off, or whatever. So, okay, all right. When that seeps down into society, when honest citizens are fear that they will be prosecuted for enforcing the civil norms, then what do you think is going to happen? What do you think is going to happen? Gary Surratt says they taught us that in the Navy in security force training. Lady Hawk says a policeman told a friend that if you shoot a peeping Tom, make sure you drag him into the house and say that he was assaulting your family. Yes, exactly. So when the law and the state is upside down, then you're going to get what you're going to get, and it's just going to get worse until it gets better. And I suspect that will happen quickly rather than slowly. I think it's going to get worse and worse and worse and worse and worse slowly over 70 or 80 years, and I think we're getting pretty close to that point. And then when the thing snaps, then I think it's going to be like, well, okay, And FAFO is, when did that catch on? Was that a year ago, maybe? 2 at the most, I want to say, maybe. Not much more than that. F around and find out. That one video that the guy did of the chart became lexicon for everybody because everybody understood that it made sense. But the pop culture wasn't ready for it until a year or 2 ago. And it's only after 4 or 5 decades of watching all of this rising chaos and violence that people are starting to say, hey, F around and find out, man. F around and find out. Because F around and find out is justice. It's a diagram for justice. if you mess around this much, you're going to get this many consequences. If you mess around this much, you're going to get this many consequences, and so on. A Roadrunner says this is why we need the colonies. We need a rational place to move to. Yes, we need a place where people are doing the right thing for the right reasons, and they're cooperating not because they're forced to, but because that is, number one, the morally right thing to do, but more practically, it's the smart play. If I help somebody when their car is broken down, the understanding is that the more of that we do, the more likely we are to have somebody help us when our car is broken down. So you either have a high trust society, high cooperation society with a great deal of altruism, in which case you live in as much of a paradise as you can have on planet Earth, or you have it's all about me, and I got to get mine while I can, and that is short-term thinking, short-term gameplay wins in the short term, but the overall effect is a much, much, much worse place to live. So I seem to remember seeing something, an experiment that was done in India, which is not known for its total dedication to civic maintenance and anti-littering. And I think if I remember correctly, as an experiment, they went in and they cleaned up one side of the street. So one side of the street got cleaned up, the other side was absolutely filthy. And if I remember correctly, I think that one clean side of the street stayed clean for quite a long time, because that's what happened. That's what you do in a clean environment. In a clean environment, in a tidy environment, you throw your trash away. If you're walking among garbage, what's the harm of dropping a can of Coke or whatever, or a diaper or something like that? What difference does it make? So, yeah, so the colonies has a single purpose, and that purpose is show people that this is how you should live, because even though there's hardship, you will be happier. I'm not even talking about philosophical issues like you'll be freer. It's not about even liberty. It's about fundamental happiness. Right? That's it. I want maximum happiness for the most number of people. But you can't expect people to choose hardship over comfort if they can't see what the long-term benefits are. And I mean see it. And so, there you go. When I did that Two Futures thing, you had these beautiful, beautiful looks-max people. They're just absolutely stunning, and everybody's smiling at everybody else, and nobody's happy. And then you have these other people that are soaking wet and freezing cold, and the men and the women are talking with each other and laughing. It's not about how much money are you going to spend with me on my date. It's like, do you want to just hang out and get a burger or something? Yeah, it sounds great. You seem like a nice guy. Used to be that way. And they're much happier. And you can't explain that to somebody. You have to show it to them. And so, I think this thing's just going to move into that space, and I think it's just going to clean up. So, so there's that. Quibo's got his first question here. There's a thought experiment, and somebody mostly joined for the entertainment side, and then he's got a sort of a script here. So if you could, Quibo, if you could post that again on Monday, I'll take it first thing on Monday. But it's politics night, and I don't want to keep Natasha waiting too long either. So there you go. Toxic empathy, suicidal empathy is a result of people being too comfortable. There are no consequences for bad decisions. So people will say things like, would you let a random person stay in your house? Yes. A random immigrant? Absolutely. I'd welcome them with open arms. That's a person who's never had to deal with actual violence. People who say that speech is violence have never had to deal with actual violence. Every time you hear somebody say that somebody that they assaulted me with speech, that's somebody who's never been punched in the face. Thanks, Quibo. Right? Because if you ever have been punched in the face, there's a difference between physical pain and being teased and having your feelings hurt. So we're just going to show them, by God. Okay, and finally, Braden Higby. Howdy from Idaho. I love it up there. Just want to take a minute to appreciate just how incredible the U.S. military is. When we roll up to an adversary, it really is like an alien invasion. even before you credit the Havana Syndrome sonic microwave weapons rumors coming from Venezuela. I don't really mean this in regards to the Iran affair. There are certainly good arguments against that action and reasons to be skeptical. Do you think the American population at large has the stomach for war? After watching Venezuela and Iran, I have no doubt that the U.S. military would come out on top of a conflict with China. I do have concerns that American public support would erode faster than the PLA. Yeah, I think I probably agree with that. Like what happened in Vietnam, where the Tet Offensive was a military failure for the VC, but a political disaster for the U.S. effort. Yes. Well, first of all, in my Cold War series, I spent a lot of time on this. The Tet Offensive in 1968 in Vietnam was when the North Vietnamese, and which were the army, the NVA, North Vietnamese army, were the uniformed regulars of North Vietnam, and then the Viet Cong were the insurgents, who were communist insurgents in South Vietnam. And they all got together and decided during the Tet holiday in 1968, when the whole country is essentially asleep, they launched this nationwide mass attack against U.S. and South Vietnamese ARVN forces. And they had some initial successes, but it was like the bonsai charges I was talking about earlier. They had some, like I said, some initial successes, but that's not how you fight an adversary who's got more firepower than you. We just cut them down in droves. And it was a catastrophe for North Vietnam. It was probably the end of it for North Vietnam. It's the last roll of the dice kind of thing. And they thought that the South Vietnamese would rise up and support them, and they didn't. But Walter Cronkite and a bunch of other liberals saw, I think it was VC soldiers, I don't think it was NVA soldiers, inside the U.S. Embassy walls in Saigon. And they were inside the walls in Saigon for about 30 minutes, if I recall, before the Marines cleared them out. But nevertheless, they got over the walls. And Walter Cronkite did a special on Vietnam and said he doesn't see that the war is winnable, and support for the Vietnam War fell 35 points overnight because people trusted Walter Cronkite, because he was a very trustworthy looking guy. He kind of felt like a cross between Mr. Rogers and Captain Kangaroo. And late in his life, well after he got off the air at CBS, I saw a video of Walter Cronkite accepting an award for an organization that believed in one world government, and Walter Cronkite said, our goal should make the idea of America nothing more than a postal address. And I thought, son of a bitch. Now, we no longer live in a world that has that kind of monopoly over information. The internet has done tremendous damage. You know, it's not even the internet. It's not the internet that's damaged, but it's social media that's destroying this country. But it also has provided, well, we're experiencing it here, right? Blogs started with blogs, independent pathways to information, and then Twitter. I don't think we would have won in fact, I know we wouldn't have won in 2024 if Elon Musk hadn't bought Twitter. Because once the signal gets out to enough people, then it catches fire. But all of this stuff is relatively new. So all of this really to say that we no longer have that monolithic trust in authorities. Conservatives have known that the news media was biased for at least 25, 30, 40 years now. And previously, all we could do was just cry about it. But as we get more and more influence with guys like Joe Rogan, who used to be a liberal, almost all of these major players used to be liberals. I used to be a liberal, but when I was a liberal, there was no anti-American. I was a pro-military, pro-capitalism, pro-business liberal. I was never a liberal. That's just what I called myself, because all of the people I was with were liberals, and I didn't think any differently about it. But my values were always, just rock solid conservative. Unlike somebody like David Horowitz, for example, who was in fact a red diaper wearing, bomb throwing communist. I never felt that way ever. They just won the rhetorical war. But look for my right angle, because we're talking about laser weapons and space-based laser weapons, and I really did a really deep conversation with Stephen Scott about, let's just assume for a moment, okay, that let's just assume. I'm not saying this is the case, but I'm also saying there's some indications, and Donald Trump's talked about not only lasers, he's also said some of the weapons we have are just unbelievable, indescribable. So for the sake of the argument, let's say that we have the ability to point at anything on the surface of the planet and make it go away. And not with a nuclear weapon, which has all of these collateral damage. This space-based laser system would be the opposite of collateral damage. You literally could pick an individual out of a crowd, I mean, presumably, right? Certainly could pick a certain car, or at least a compound or an aircraft. So let's just say we have this capability, all right? And let's say we have this capability, and it becomes known that we have this capability. You know, China has to think, well, if we're going to invade Taiwan, we're going to need this many ships and this many carriers and this many destroyers. And then the United States says, no, you don't understand. You don't have any carriers. You don't have any destroyers. All we have to do is push a button and they go away. Let's just assume that that's the case. In the case of nuclear weapons, we had that kind of monopoly on absolute power for 4 years before the Russians developed their own nuclear weapon. But this is different, because I'm not saying that China couldn't produce a weapon like this, but if we get it first, then we simply destroy the Chinese version of this as it's being deployed. So let's just say that that's the case. What do? I saw some video that I didn't know was authentic, and I made that clear. I don't know if it's authentic or not, but I did see a video where the entire sky lit up the whole time, lit up bright yellow, and I didn't see a beam, but on the ground, in fact, I didn't see a beam, makes it more believable actually, but on the ground there was like a little tiny sphere. It looked like a little tiny ball of plasma, and it didn't expand. It just crackled like that. So just for the sake of the argument, let's just say that that's the case. Sarge, how are you? Let's just say that we have that technology. My first thought was, my God, no one should have this technology. I don't know if I trust anybody to have this technology. And then my second thought was, well, the technology is here, so somebody's going to get it. And while I'm deeply worried about having that kind of power, hey, Sarge, I can't think of anybody else who would deal with that power better than we do. You know, there is data on the table here. We had a nuclear monopoly, and we could have dropped atomic bombs. It was orange. We could have put our flag in every capital of the world. For 4 years, we had atomic weapons, and we had B-29s to deliver them, and we had a Navy to protect the delivery routes. We could have conquered the world, and no one could have done a thing about it. But we didn't. We didn't use those weapons. We scrapped the B-29s. We scrapped the Navy, and we had the biggest disarmament in history. And we did that voluntarily. And to the people say, well, it was a long time ago and it was a one-off. It's like, well, in 1991, we found ourselves kicking Iraq out of Kuwait, and we found ourselves on top of the burning Kuwaiti oil fields. Our army, not our diplomats, not our engineers, our army was sitting on top of the most valuable oil fields on the planet at the time, which we had earned through pushing an enemy military out of it. We didn't invade Kuwait. We pushed the invaders out of Kuwait. And for those people who say, oh, America just only goes to war for oil, we were sitting on the biggest oil field on the planet. And what did we do? Well, we went to the trouble of putting out those oil fires, then we went home. We didn't just commandeer those things. So there's data there, you know. I'm not saying we're faultless. On the contrary, I'm deeply skeptical of the U.S. government but I am less skeptical about them than I am of any other government, and that skepticism is what protects us. Uh, the the thing about power is that power should only be bestowed upon the people that do not want it. That's the essence of the Lord of the Rings. Uh, you can't give Frodo the ring if Frodo wants the ring. He doesn't want the ring, but Frodo also has to have the courage to say, if I don't take the ring, then we lose. So this idea of having this horrible weight of responsibility and this terrified concern about the misuse of power, as long as that stays in place, then, good. Um, uh, we'll have to see. I think the people like me and like you who generally support Donald Trump support him as long as we know that we are on the side of morality. The left says that ICE deportations are cruel and criminal, and that ICE is the equivalent of the Gestapo or the SS. And I know what the SS did, and I know what the Gestapo did, and when I see 6 million innocent, when I see desert roads lined with 6 million bodies of deportees, then I'll start getting on the side of the left and start talking about how we have to overthrow this dictatorial regime. But if you stand on a street corner with a megaphone and talk about how we're under a dictatorship, I'm certainly not the only person who is able to perceive that contradiction, right? If you live under a fascist dictatorship and you're screaming about a fascist dictatorship on the street corner, or if you are on television being broadcast to the nation that we live in a fascist dictatorship, then you don't live in a fascist dictatorship, because if you did, you couldn't be on television talking about it. You would be either in a camp or up against a wall. And this is ironclad logic and history. It's not up for debate. But these people are so historically ignorant and so driven by their emotions. And this is the thing about Starfleet Academy. I haven't watched a frame of it, but I have listened to the reviews of it, which has been soldierly work by people who did it so that I didn't have to. It's kind of like the military. But at the end of the first season is over, 10 episodes are over. The cadets have learned nothing. What did they study in Starfleet Academy? They studied hooking up with men and women, men hooking up with men, women hooking up with women. They studied that. They went on spring break after apparently a week's worth of occasionally attending lectures. The only actual class we saw, they weren't studying engineering or mathematics, they were studying theater. And so now that's 10 episodes later, and they've graduated their first year. And the one chick who always wanted to be a captain sits in the captain's chair and they have a big, gigantic musical build because she wants it. Not that she earned it, she wanted it. And so since she wanted it enough, she got it. She didn't earn it. Nobody earned anything. They didn't learn anything. Starfleet Leering Academy, absolutely right. And this is what controls the culture now. Gay men and feminist women. And they are the most mentally unbalanced people in our society. They're just plain nuts. Nuts. It's Glee in space. That's exactly what it is, Kirk. It is Glee in space. That's perfect description. It's Glee in space. And everything that they do is so wrong. It's so tin-eared. They wanted to make the captain idiosyncratic. So they got Holly Hunter, who's like 4'3" or something. And she curls up in the captain's chair and she's and it's just that's all they know. That's all they know. So it's appalling. It's just Deep Space 90210. Exactly, TVA. It's just garbage. It's not science. It's not fiction. It's all they know how to do. They don't know anything about science. They don't know how big the space is. They don't know anything about technology. Any kind of technology works. So all they know how to do is write for, girls. And so it's girls in space. the Lena Dunham thing, right? Or it's Sex. Well, they're too young for Sex in the City. The Klingon has two fathers. Yes, that's right. The Klingon has the gay Klingon who hates war has two fathers and a mother. Because you need to be normalized to the belief that that having two fathers or two mothers is the norm, and this Klingon idea of fighting about things has to be destroyed. So you have a gay Klingon who likes to watch birds, and they don't have the courage. And let me just do a little sidestep here. If I was a left-winger, and I really, really wanted to make a point, if I was a left-winger and I wanted to make a point for the woke message, here's what I would have done with that Klingon. Instead of making him a sensitive Klingon who's gay and goes to Starfleet Academy, I would have had him be killed by the other Klingons, because that's what the Klingons would have done. They would have, Marisha Dark beat me to it. Actual Klingons would have thrown him off the cliff as a child. Yes, that's much more effective. And that's what separates us from the Klingons. And if you showed the Klingons pushing the weak and the defective off of cliffs, you would have made a stronger point for the suicidal empathy of the Federation. And that wouldn't be suicidal empathy. That'd be genuine empathy. But nope, they're not smart enough to do it. They don't know how. They are the most untalented talking dog D-bags on that has ever walked the earth in Hollywood, and they'll get, this is no different for them than any other series. It's like you got a job as a writer on Star Trek. It's just, well, it's the same as getting a job as a writer on, any of these streaming shows. They don't know anything about science. They don't care. In fact, they didn't even sit down in a writer's room because one episode directly contradicts the previous episode. They didn't even talk to each other. Okay. So there it is. Anyway, that's all our questions, and it's 8:18. Not too bad. 2.5 hours, 2:15, so 2 hours roughly. We start a little late. We've got some things going on here. Free Speech Enjoyer, cool name, says the annoying part is they already know how to write a strong woman captain that isn't whatever that is in Academy. Janeway had to treat the chain of command seriously, or none of them would survive. Correct. And now you're on the main vein here, Free Speech Enjoyer, because I'll bet you anything that almost all of Janeway was written by a man. So, and the same thing is true for, I know it's true for Sarah Connor, and I know it's true for Ellen Ripley. They're terrific heroines, written by men, because men understand what real leadership looks like. And women just have the illusion, the fantasy of what it looks like. Walk into a room and insult everybody, and then you get Admiral Haldo, right? That's what feminists think strength looks like, is belittling people to their faces and throwing your weight around, because that's all they know how to do. They don't get it. TB 113 says, reject modernity, embrace 90s, early 2000s military sci-fi, Babylon 5, Space Above and Beyond, Battlestar Galactica reboot, Stargate. More than enough to look back on and wonder how we could go so wrong. Well, we're going to show you how to get out of that. And the last thing I'll say before we close the show here is on our last Stratosphere Studio on Monday, we're talking about things like trying to work in slang that would survive, a decade, profanity and all the rest of it. And then I found a YouTube channel. I found it 10 minutes after I shut down the stream. AI video, and it's brilliant. It's absolutely brilliant. And I watched this, and I won't tell it to you now. I'll bring it up Monday. But I watched this, and I said to myself, I can't do this. I can't do what they're doing. And the reason I can't do what they're doing is because they're the anti-bill. They are the antithesis of everything that I'm about. And I can't write that stuff. But I want to hire them because there are dark corners of the colony's universe that we haven't talked about much, and it's good to have a little stick in there as well as some carrots, just to set the contrast, because man, you want to talk about a dystopian future, boy. It is terrible. All right. Anyway, that'll do it for this show, I think. Yeah, good enough. As you probably know by now, this show is made possible by the members of BillWhittle.com, who've kept the lights going and kept us at all of this for the whole time. And we're at the point now where we're really actually starting to get some traction and starting to generate some frames and see what happens. Quiwa, I haven't looked at much of anything yet, but let me catch up on my thing. George said the magic word. George said the magic word. That's who I discovered. And we'll bring them out and show you a couple of them on Monday night. Yeah, they're unbelievable, unbelievable. All right. So until then, thanks again for being with us, and we'll see you Monday night for your very own Stratosphere Studio.